kind of pivoting from that, when looking at, okay, so if those are the position groups, there's obviously once we get into OTAs, there are guys that kind of need to stand out and need to kind of um again, like I was saying talking about earlier about with the linebackers, like you kind of need to make yourself known and kind of put people on alert that like, oh, this person isn't showing him signs of improvement or is actually going to make some noise once the season starts. So I have a couple of guys that I'm interested in knowing who you guys think, but who do you think needs to have a fast start in the OTAs? I have three guys on my list right now that I personally believe need to have a fast start to OTAs, but I'm super interested in again kind of knowing what you guys think, um, and we can kind of go from here. Actually, I have more than I forgot I added to this list. Um, so I said I had three. I actually have one, two, three, four. I have five. I have five guys that I think need to have fast starts to OTAs. Um, and I'm gonna just start off the bat with Jack Campbell, right? Jack Campbell, again, for every reason I said earlier when talking about linebackers, you're a first round pick. Linebackers typically aren't picked in the first round these days. Um, and so you kind of have to make your presence felt. Again, we saw what Malcolm did last year, so there's a bar that's kind of already set as far as what is possible. And so whether it's fair or not, there's going to be this expectation on my part that like, hey, Jack come in early and at least shows command, at least shows the ability to um again not make the same mistakes, be able to make take command of the defense, to showcase his coverage ability because like I've said, even in his evaluation, he's great in zone coverage. And when you're playing 7-on-7, you're going to get a lot of that. You'll obviously get some man, but it's going to be really interesting to see how Jack kind of evolves and develops as they kind of go through OTAs because again, I think he needs to have a fast start so that he can A gain the confidence of this defensive staff or this coaching staff in general, and B so that that way like if he gains that confidence, it makes it much more likely that he starts. Again, this coaching staff has never given anything to anybody. Everything is earned. And so if Jack wants to be the starting linebacker, if he wants to have the green dot, if he wants to be the man in charge, OTAs is where he has to make that impact. And I know it's going to be a little hard because it's OTA, so there's not contact. He can't hit anybody, but he can still play great in coverage. He can still play. He can show his ability to drop in zone. He can show his ability to be good in man coverage because obviously that wasn't something they saw a lot of in Iowa. But if he shows the ability to do it here in OTAs, then that gives the coaching staff a lot more confidence once the season rolls around and being able to roll him out um, week one. So Jack Campbell is my first person on the list. Second on the list is Cam Sutton. Cam Sutton was your most highly paid free agent, right? Getting the cornerback out of Pittsburgh who has he's never been like a big name corner, but he's been consistent. He's been solid. You look at his pass breakups. You look at the amount of yards he's given up. Cam Sutton has been a solid corner, and so you made him a priority. He was one of your first signings as far as outside the building signings, and so Cam Sutton is somebody who it seems like because you've traded away Jeff Okuda, you decided not to sign Amani back. Cam Sutton has to prove that he's capable of being CB1. And that's someone where again, it's OTAs and while OTAs are very much tailored to the offense finding more success in the defense, I would still love to hear that Cam Sutton is challenging these guys, that he's challenging a Josh Reynolds, that he's challenging a Jamison Williams, that him and Marvin are having good battles, that him and Saint are having good battles, right? Um, he's supposed to be the savvy veteran to help lead this new secondary room. So that's someone that I kind of have a bullseye on as far as like, okay, I want to hear good things about Cam Sutton coming out early. Because I feel like between him and Chauncey Gardner Johnson, one of those two guys, in addition to Tracy Walker, because Tracy obviously was a captain last year, but one of those two guys also needs to be a very vocal leader for that group and help hold that cornerback group accountable. Next on my list is another rookie and another defensive back, and it's Brian Branch. And again, it goes back to the idea that like I'm not sure if Tracy's going to be starting and if he's going to be taking part in 11 on 11s, if he's going to be doing any of the team drills. And so if he's not, then I think this is an excellent opportunity for Brian Branch to take advantage of that opportunity. showcase, show the team and show the coaches why they don't need to rush Tracy back. Show everybody the guy that went to Alabama as a freshman and started for Nick Saban. Because if you're able to show that you're able to pick up the defense, diagnose the defense, and make plays, you have a faster track of making it onto the field. And if it's not that, and if Tracy is taking those defensive snaps, obviously, working with the second team, make a splash on the second team. But in addition to that, I feel like Brian Branch is going to have to make plays on special teams. So again, showing that commitment to go out there and do the dirty work and to go out there on special teams, be a gunner, cover kicks, whatever it might be, whatever you can do to showcase to this coaching staff that you deserve to be on the field. Um, Last year we saw Kirby kind of again make like subtle waves in the offseason where he would make splash plays. Obviously, he wasn't super consistent, but he would make a play here and there. And that's all I'm really asking for from Brian Branch. Make a play here and there to kind of keep this coaching staff aware of like, okay, he's developing and he's where we want him to be. Next on the list, we have Jameer Gibbs. And again, these are all rookies because like a lot of these rookies were drafted high and they were highly touted. And Jameer Gibbs being drafted, the second running back in the draft, you want to hear good things. Like you want to hear that Jameer Gibbs is cooking everybody. That includes Jack Campbell. Like as much as I want Jack to make plays, I also want to hear that Jameer has cooked him a number of times. So at least I can feel like, okay, you got exactly what you were looking for going into the draft when you decided to pick him 12th overall. And from rumors, we're okay with taking possibly at 6 if you never got that trade from Arizona. So I want to hear that Jameer is again being utilized in a number of different ways. I want to hear that he's being, he's in the slot, that he's out wide, that you know he's lined up in the backfield, that he's doing just about everything and being this true weapon that Brad Holmes said that they saw him as. Don't don't get into OTAs, don't start getting into these offseason workouts and just run him on Texas routes. He runs a great one and it's awesome, but just don't just go out here and do that. Don't just put him on halfback option routes. Like truly utilize him to his fullest capabilities and let's see if he's able to make splash plays um during the offseason. And this is my last one, and then I'll see what you guys are saying in the chat so we can kind of compare notes on who we're all kind of expecting to have fast starts into OTAs. But the last one for me is insert your favorite UDFA. I believe it was Casey that said this early in the show, like, hey, he's kind of like rooting for these underdogs and things like that. So if you're rooting for an underdog, if you have a favorite UDFA, if you have, or maybe it's just a late round draft pick, maybe you're a real big fan of Antoine Green and you wanted to do well, those are the guys that have to make really big impressions during these OTAs. They have to really stand out. They have to show that commitment, that ability to be a dog, the ability to be gritty and to grind and to kind of take, you know, to take what's available to them and try to take a guy's job. Um, if these guys I feel like making the Lions roster this year will be the most difficult it's been during Dan Campbell's tenure. Obviously, the first year they were just looking for guys. They were trying to find their culture fits. The second year got a little more difficult because you have two draft classes and you were able to sign, some slightly better free agents. This year you were able to sign some really good free agents, pick up some really good pieces in the draft, and so there's not as many like holes for like, oh yeah, a UDFA can easily fill that spot. Um, if we're talking about UDFAs making the roster, again, we're talking about RB3, we're talking about CB4, wide receiver 5 or 6. Like it's further down the depth chart, but if you have a favorite, that's somebody who needs to kind of really stand out and have a big week at OTAs.